Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Iron Canon podcast, your home for in-depth discussion on the lore, the High Republic, and the whole canon of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew, and I am coming to you, as always, from Underworld North Stew in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm joined from across the continent by your friend and mine, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good, and it's nice to start a podcast without a computer crashing.
Yes,
I'm sure
good
you
call.
have heard of the infamous tales of last week.
Oh yeah, Thursday. Yeah, we'll get to that in the plug. So that was fun. That was fun. Fun to chat. Fun to check.
Keep
There we go.
teasing.
This week we are talking all about Easter, talking about the chosen one, is because Easter is almost upon us, which means we're talking about the hopes and prophecies of an anointed savior that abound both in real world religions and in the galaxy far, far away. So in this climactic week of the Christian year, coming from my real world experience at least, we're going to do the ultimate theology time, guys. We're going to do the ultimate theology time, explore messianic hopes in George Lucas's modern day mythos and how it's connected to real world religions and real world beliefs, etc. We'll see some comments there. Having breakfast. We'll get to you in a second, Chris. There we go. You can follow us. Get the first off plugs. You follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Ion Cannon Pod, but mostly on Blue Sky at Ion Cannon, Ioncanon. Check us out there. Also, if audio is more your speed, you can look us up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Look up the Ion Cannon podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcast feeds for your listening pleasure. Also, note we are proudly part of the Star Wars Underworld podcast network. Good old fandom fam. It's celebrating its 15th year. Again, we'll get to that plug-in. Is that fun plug in a second, but celebrating its 15th year as a podcast. The flagship is, so that's kudos to them. Happy to be part of this fandom fam. And here on the YouTube channel, we got YouTube memberships. We've got super chats. Of course, if you chat with us, we'll get to your comment as soon as we can. If you super chat us, we will get to it immediately, and we're grateful for any support you can provide. Also, the Star Wars Underworld Discord server, minty fresh link in the description below. We're especially probably going to be talking about Celebration, certain Pacific Coast party coming on strong in the next few days. So jump in while the water's cool, while the water's warm. Conversations are flying and going, and any events coming up, or events I know you recently had an event, but any events coming up?
We might do a game night next week. It's we're a bit uncertain because everyone's kind of gone for celebration, so we kind of might take a bit of a hiatus. But last week we watched Rogue One, a Star Wars story, in preparation for Andor season 2.
There you go. Now, normally at this point of the show, I'd be all tractor beam because Chris Abbott and I would be looking ahead to the comic books that come out this week. But Joel, I got a question for you. Are you free Wednesday night? What are you doing?
Am.
What are you up to Wednesday night?
I'm not doing much. I'm not doing much. My Wednesdays are quiet.
There we go. I think you're gonna come on and engage the tractor ring with me.
Yes,
that's right. We're gonna come with Jedi Knights. I'm gonna see if I can do this quickly. Let's see how all this works. This is gonna look like this. Nope, that's not gonna work. No. No, it's not gonna work. Never mind. I tried to do the whole thing backdrop. I know you can't do it in the middle of the stream apparently. But at least it's gonna go look like that for a second. But yeah, you see, you can't. That's weird. Why can't you do that? It's too bad. I'm disappointed. I wanted to do a fun effect of making it look like the tractor beam, but anyway, that's okay. Come on Wednesday. Anyway, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Joel, you and I are going to do look at Jedi Knights number 2 and Legacy of Vader number 3. Give Chris and I less catch up on the way when he gets back later this month. Of course, the High Republic manga just came out, and there's another one coming out soon. So we're gonna have plenty. But so this coming week we're gonna do yeah. So it's 10 a.m. Yeah, it's coming out 10 a.m. I guess that would be 10 a.m. your time in Japan on Wednesday. Feel free to tune in. Yeah, Japan Standard Time if you're wherever you are in the world. If you're in New Zealand, let me get this There we go. If you're in New Zealand, check us out as well. Of course, Mondays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, here on the Iron Canon podcast. And then Track Dream comics reviews also on Audible, on audio, not Audible, on audio and Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Last but not least, if you are in Japan and if you are free on Friday at 4 p.m. local time, head on over to the fan stage. Our good friend Ash is doing her panel, Senator Rebel Chancellor, who is Mon Mothma. Definitely check that one out. It's gonna be fun. Hear Ash yap. Let Ash yap is the panel. Definitely check that out, and that will be on YouTube later on. But do your best to give the support. There we go. All right. We got a bit more comments there. Good to see it. Dead Dragon 34. Yeah, I'm gonna keep up the stream. Yes, and then for Discord, check out the link down below yet again. Okay, so instead of a week in Star Wars, we're gonna do something a little different. We are doing some vibe checks, doing a few vibe checks. The first one is Eyes on Screen. Andor is imminent. It's comes out in can do math here in 8 days. Comes out in 8 days from now, on the 22nd. And Joel, I've done a bunch of yapping. I'll turn this to you. How are you feeling? What do you think about Andor season 2 coming right up?
Oh, I know it's intense. It's exciting. It's all sorts of feelings. I've been I prepped for Andor. I've rewatched all of season 1. I rewatched Secret Cargo. I even watched In the Name of the Rebellion parts 1 and 2. I watched Rogue One last week, this Friday, so very recent. And yeah, I am ready. My body is ready for Andor season 2. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
Is your mind and your heart ready? Is the
Yes, they are.
I don't know. I think I'm looking forward to not being ready. I'm looking forward to being taken for a ride here. Looking forward to. I mean, I'm expecting a big political swing, and then I'm of two minds there. Are they going to take the swing? Was it already in the can, in the bag, and then Trump came and is doing what he's doing, or did they do some editing to soften that? Maybe not. I mean, maybe everything's just implied and I'm reading into it. I don't know, but partly expecting it to be a moment, partly expecting it to kind of play softball potentially. I guess the way it's been set up in season 1 wasn't set up for softball with the Empire. It's just how close the imperial depiction of the Empire will be to contemporary politics. Maybe that's the question, because clearly there's a strong current of resistance against the Empire in the show. Obviously, it ends with a certain phrase. We hear "fight the Empire," but I don't think that's the actual phrase. So, looking forward to that. Looking forward to the way, actually, we'll get into this. So I'll mention this slightly. I'll get into this in a bit, but tickets for Revenge of the Sith coming out.
I got mine.
Yes, I got mine for 3 different screens. Wow. Star Wars at its best. I say this all the time. Star Wars at its best works on the personal, on the political, and on the cosmic. This show isn't really dealing with the cosmic so much. It isn't dealing
2
with
out of 3.
Isn't really dealing with the space. Ahsoka didn't really, only slightly dealt with the political. Definitely dealt with the personal and the cosmic. So usually you get 2 out of 3, and how well the two work together. And I'm looking forward to this showing the personal impact of these political choices that Cassian Andor is making, that Mon Mothma is making, and everyone around her or around them are making, and what that means for his relationship with Bix. I am curious the way that that interview with Adria Arjona was set up. I'm curious to see what that dynamic is, what kind of personal choices they make in light of Cassian's political choice. What do they end up doing? I'm guessing that they suck a little face, but what does that mean long term for them? And so, that's oddly enough, that's the question I'm wondering: is what's the relationship between the personal and the political. Of course, the personal is political. Let's be clear, but what also the revolutionary is political, and how that can get in the way of some personal choices, or how those personal choices can complicate the political choices. I think what we'll find is that they end up motivating those political choices in meaningful ways,
Mhm.
but we'll actually be taken on that journey with Cassian Andor. So I'm looking forward to that. You wanted to jump in there?
I was rewatching Rogue One. You're
Mm-hmm.
itchy ear, itchy ear. There we go.
Oh, that's easier.
And which I would suggest you should do it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of two reasons. One,
Yeah.
in my opinion, Rogue One is kind of the unofficial true final episode of Andor
Yes.
season
Yeah.
2 of Andor,
Yeah.
just in general, the whole show. Although I was
Mm-hmm.
struck by how well it still works as Jin's story ultimately, even
Sure.
though Cassie is still very much, I would say, the secondary character.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like how it's sort of like be like if the prequels, you could say Obi-Wan's like the primary protagonist.
Mm.
Though not, but and then he kind of becomes the mentor
I
to
see what you
Luke
mean.
and
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of like that. But anyway, my point is, Cassian's he's not broken, but I do feel like in the beginning he's kind of on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
Like he talked about how like I lost so much. I need this to be real. I need the rebellion to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
Because he sacrificed so much, and ultimately, kind of Jin kind of reignites the spark in
Right.
him by the end. So I kind of feel like this season's going to be a dark one. I think Andor's going to lose a lot,
Yeah.
and I think if it's going to fit with Rogue One and kind of him, kind of by the end, kind of having the spark come back to him, especially as
Mm-hmm.
things get lighter and we get closer
Yeah.
to Luke and all that. So I'm not. I'm very worried about his ferret friends. I'll just say. I
Yeah.
think it's
Well,
gonna
there's a
have.
reason. There's a reason they're not in the picture. There's a reason Bix isn't in the picture in Rogue One, and then there's like the in-universe reason
Right.
that Tony Leroy had to concoct, and that they all had to concoct.
Bix,
There,
Roscoe,
all those guys.
Emo,
Yeah. Whereas Melshi is in the picture,
No,
right?
Melfi's the
Yeah,
one.
no. Yeah, no. Well, whereas that's what I was saying.
Where's
Why?
Luthen? There's the question.
Yeah, where's Luthen? I mean, he's
Where's
Draven. No, I'm
Vel
just kidding.
and Cinta and
Yeah, all these characters.
Mhm.
So yeah, who knows? Who knows if they eat it, hit the dust, or something? And again, how do those personal, not necessarily personal choices, but personal encounters, experiences, painful personal experiences end up motivating him? Yeah. Yeah, because loss can be a powerful motivator.
Mhm.
Grief can be a powerful motivator. All right, any last thoughts on the vibe check, or we get to move on?
I guess the only discourse I feel like Ion Can will probably get into is just get ready for the K2SO comic probably to get ignored if they're
Yeah,
interested.
that's fine.
I'm waiting
I'm
for
over
that
that.
discourse to start by someone, and it's
Sure.
gonna be annoying.
Yeah,
But outside of that, I'm ready. I'm ready. I want to see what happens. I want to see
yeah,
Mon's speech in the Senate.
that would be great. Honestly, when that happens in the show, the K2SO thing, we'll mention it for a minute and then move on.
I never even read that comic, and I don't even remember it.
It's not a bad comic, but it's just a one shot. We'll mention it for a minute, then move on, because we're going to really talk about the themes and ideas and character stories of the show, and
Right.
that's going to be our focus because that's what we do at Ion Canon. Yes, we have the eye on our eye on the canon, eye on paper canon especially, but we're going to pivot to. There's a French reference, sorry. Yeah, pivot to focusing on this show in 2 weeks time. 2 weeks time for us, in 2 weeks time, 8 days time for all of us, including on Tractor Beam. We're going to mention it a little bit. All right, moving right along. Here's a rhyme. SWCJ is on the way. I did not plan that, but
Nice.
I'm here all week, guys. I'm here all week. Yeah, Star Wars Celebration is on the way. It kicks off this Friday. So there's our second vibe check here. Going into Celebration, there've been a lot of announcements already we're gonna get to two of them in the next. We'll get to one big one very shortly, but
Big for
also,
us.
yeah, big for us. I'll also mention now. I guess you asked, but I'll mention the video game. What's this video game called?
It is called. I don't remember. Actually, I put it here. It's in the.
Chris in the comments mention what. Tell me what it's called
Yeah,
again.
it's called Zero Company. Star Wars
Zero
Zero
Company.
Company. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
turn-based tactics game developed by BitReactor and Respawn.
yeah. So
Um,
there's been a bunch of announcements already, which is kind of surprising. So here's hoping. I mean, maybe they're getting the paper announcements out of the way so they can talk about things that have already happened, talk about comic books on their way, kind of maybe get more meaty. I don't know. And also, of course, celebration for those who are going. It's all about meeting the people, being with the people there that we know. So I hope you all are looking forward to that. That'll be fun. Hopefully, living vicariously through you and through your Instagram photos, everybody who's there. But also, yeah, who knows what kind of reveals? I mean, there got to be some kind of Mando Grogu trailer or something. Yeah, who knows? There might be pulling in the publishing panel. There might be pulling a rabbit out of the hat and saying the saving up for something big. I don't know. We'll probably find out what the new animated series is. Maybe it is continuing on the Ventress. That might be a possibility. I don't know. I don't know. What are you thinking about Celebration? What's your vibes?
Oh, I'm excited. I think
Yeah.
it'll be maybe cool. I think the word quaint is a good one to use. It'll be a
Interesting.
quaint celebration.
Hmm.
Yeah, I hope for a Mando and Grogu trailer. That's certainly something. Because on the one
Hmm.
hand, it's like we still got like a year and a month to go with that
Yeah.
movie.
True.
It's like if you put out a trailer, people, general audiences are probably going to forget. It's like, oh yeah, a bajillion other things happen,
Right.
both entertainment and non-entertainment wise.
Hmm.
Um,
True.
so there's that. Yeah, I sort of expect there to be at least an announcement for whatever the mainline animated show will be.
Hmm.
Maybe some set photos for Ahsoka season 2. Maybe see what the new actor for Balin looks like in the Balin
Yeah.
outfit, just to kind of get us ready.
Hmm.
Rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. There's a little bit of that, a little bit of look back on Ahsoka season 1. That'll be fun. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy said like, "Oh, get ready. There's gonna be some fun stuff at Celebration during an Andor interview."
Interesting.
Um, so there's that. Oh, probably a look at Andor season 1, of course. I know there's a panel for that.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'd be curious to see what the Palpatine panel brings to the. Oh, and of course, there's gonna be one for the actual game itself, the Zero Company game. So
Right.
get a look at
Interesting.
what that's gonna be all about.
So
And
panel for a turn-based game, wholly devoted to a turn-based game.
yeah, it's like
Interesting.
apparently based off a game like XCOM. I've never played XCOM, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Chris probably knows
There's
about more
also
about
one
that.
for the Outlaws sequel. I saw
Oh, is
something
that?
about that.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
Am,
that's
am I out to lunch there?
I don't think it's a panel. I just think there's gonna be just a reveal of, and it's gonna have
Yeah.
Hondo in it. That'll be fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
I expect a fun, quaint celebration. I think that's the
Interesting.
word I'm going for. Quaint but fun.
Do you think they pull a wild one like announcing a new live action show or more details on a film or something?
If I think
Yeah.
show no, because we got Ahsoka next year.
We're just rhyming
I
all over the place here.
I know I am.
Yeah.
If I think small chance of saying what the name or title of the Sean Levy movie is, because that
Yeah.
one seems to be picking up steam as of late from what I've been following.
Hmm.
Um, but that would be. But I would think that they might just want to have the energy on Mandalorian and Grogu,
Yeah.
because that's obviously a movie that we have at the can, and our first movie panel in 7 years.
That's true. Has it
So
been no, 6 years.
what was 2019?
Yeah, 6 years ago.
Right, 6 years, 6 7 years. It's in 6 7. So it's a panel dedicated to
So
just a movie. So
that was a long time. You're right. 6 years is still a long time.
so, so they probably want to keep the energy on that. Maybe
Hmm.
near the end,
Hmm.
but I won't know, but definitely that's possible. Show
Yeah,
I'm kind of expecting to hear Zip
yeah,
until after Ahsoka season 2, but who
sure.
knows? But yeah, I think this will be focusing a lot on what we know, not
Hmm.
necessarily what we don't. And I kind of
Yeah.
appreciate that. I think sometimes it's good to live in the present.
That is interesting. I always enjoy going to panels, looking back on things more than kind of the big splashy reveal panels for screen stuff. Oddly enough, for paper stuff, I want the big reveals because maybe that's my jam here. So that's why I was like, New York Comic Con, what's the new comic book? What's the new comic book? And they didn't tell us, which they should have. But we all knew Ongoing by Alex Segura, and now we found out Legacy Vader and all that. So maybe there'll be some short runs announced, maybe another novel announced potentially.
I think
Uh,
there's supposed to be like a Force Awakens thing for young adult from the listings that I've been looking
oh,
at.
maybe, yeah. And then let me see. I mean, things about the Poe comic, and probably Alex Segura's ongoing, different things, different. And I mean, what's interesting is I think is not Mark Paniccia. CB Cebulski is going to be there, and I think he usually is there. He's the Marvel editor for Star Wars, or the Star Wars editor for Marvel, however we want to word that. So he'll be there on the publishing panel as well. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they say. Um, see what they talk about High Republic, what they say about High Republic. It's going to be we're 2 months away from the Das Edge, the end of High Republic. So that's right, April, May, June. Yeah,
uh,
wow. So yeah, a
mhm.
lot of looking back. Maybe I mean I've thought about this, and I think I've said this before. Maybe like a Chicago style tease
Maybe.
about what's next, like
I
they did for Project Luminous in Chicago. Will they do this other thing? Because they might give us something, like some sense of what they're thinking, what they're doing. But just like with films, they want to be careful not to give us the farm before we've laid any eggs. If that makes
I
any
thought
sense.
I thought the phrase was "Don't put the cart before the horse."
Yeah, that one too. I don't know. I just made one up just now.
That's a good one. I mean,
Yeah.
if our prediction of no celebration 2026 comes true because it's the
Yeah.
50th, unless they just want to do next 2 years, 3 weren't straight, which hey, I'm down for. But
Yeah.
let's, they can announce, they can give us a little tease for like
Mm-hmm.
Project Zoominous.
Project
Zoom
Numinous.
Numinous.
Project Numinous, which is actually a word Numinous. Yes.
Numinous. And then
Mm-hmm.
2026 is kind of a quiet year for
Yeah.
publishing, and maybe some one-off books. And
Anaheim.
then 2027, they can say, "Old
This,
Republic time, let's go."
this is
Or
going to be a
something.
7. Anaheim 2027.
Yeah, or something like that. I mean, I could be completely wrong. But maybe they'll do something like that.
I mean, easier for you to get to.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited either way. I like a celebration. I just like the
Yeah.
vibe it brings.
Oh, hopefully they do stuff on the live stream.
I think there's a live stream, so
Like, but hopefully the live stream is substantial, substantive, because the last few haven't been. Like, I mean, the like Anaheim 2015 was. I talk about this a lot. It's the birth of my modern Star Wars fandom in everything it gave us, and I just glued myself to it. I can't glue myself to my TV this weekend, but I mean, I can a little bit. But um, yeah, hopefully they actually show not just the. I mean, look, and don't get me wrong, Anthony Carboni and whoever else on the floor, the hall floor there, that they're great, but I want some panels too, just a little bit, just because so many of us couldn't make the trip to Japan. That's why. So, anyways, speaking of announcements that they made, but because so many people couldn't make the trip, one person who is making the trip is a certain Adam Christopher, and
woo!
he's going to be there to talk about his book Master of Evil. This just dropped last week. Again, oddly enough, before Celebration, not at Celebration, but what can you do? But we got excited for this. This was exciting. I'm going to read this releases November 11th. That's Veterans Day over there and Remembrance Day over here. And I don't know if that's significant or not, but maybe it's just when they figured it's a good time to do it. I'm going to read the whole dang summary from Penguin Random House here, but
Thank you.
then we're going to dive into it. So yes, after Revenge of the Sith, a newly forged Darth Vader hunts for the secrets of life and death under the watchful eye of Emperor Palpatine. In the wake of Emperor Palpatine, so that's the kind of the tag. Then, in the wake of Emperor Palpatine's rise to power, the true nature of his most sinister enforcer remains a mystery. Darth Vader is a dominant yet elusive, not elusive, elusive, like illusory figure. The shadow cast by malignant imperial regime, unknowable to even its top officials. But even as his humanity gives way to myth, Vader remains haunted by the promises of the dark side, seeking the ultimate power that his master has hinted at, but withheld, the power to conquer death itself. On the volcanic world of Mustafar, Vader undertakes a dark ritual, bleeding a kyber crystal to forge his lightsaber. This act unleashes a power far greater than he anticipated, giving him a glimpse into the limitless potential of the Force. Vader is determined to follow this vision, even if it means defying his master's orders. Yet he finds the Emperor suspiciously supportive of his mission, even sending Vader to the DISO system, DISO, to investigate rumors of a force-wielding shaman able to raise the dead. At his side are cadre of the Emperor's scarlet-robed royal guard, led by Colonel Holland Goth, a decorated soldier with a very personal interest in Vader's mission. Even as the Emperor's true motivations reveal themselves, Vader falls deeper into obsession. His journey takes him far across the galaxy, chasing rumors and phantoms. But no matter how far he travels, he cannot escape the shadows within his own soul. Haunted by the echoes of his past, Vader circles the true resolution to his quest. Only once all weakness is purged can he become a master of evil. Dot, dot, dot,
Dun,
dot.
dun, dun.
Amazing. I just read a bunch. What are your thoughts and feels on this one?
Yeah, this is a very interesting
Yeah.
sounding book. Very horror vibe. So it
Let
seems
me
like
get
this
the
very
cover
leaning
here.
on. Oh, what?
I got the cover up here.
Oh, okay. I thought you couldn't hear me for a second.
No, I
Yeah,
can hear you. Go for it.
very horror vibes. I mean, the cover. I mean, look at this cover. It's
Yeah.
very horror vibes. So that's nice. I mean, the officer's name is Goth. I mean, come on. Hilarious. No. Also very interesting. This seems to be corresponding,
Coinciding.
coinciding. Thank you. Words today. I know
That's right.
coinciding with Charles Soule's the Vader comic because they mentioned the lightsaber
Yeah.
bleeding crystal. I tried to see if I could get Adam Christopher to spill any beans on that on Blue Sky, but he just liked it, and that was that. Could not get it out of him. So that's interesting. So I'm kind of wondering when does this happen during the Vader run? It sounds like it's happening during sometime in between one of the arcs in the Vader run. I mean, hey, Vader's a busy guy. He's got a lot to do on his plate. So that's cool. Obviously, we have seen Vader twice try to do the whole bring back Padme from the dead thing in the Charles Soule Vader comic when he's building the castle, and in the Vader Fortress Vader VR game. So this will be interesting to kind of see what he's up to here. So yeah, that's kind of all. I wonder what kind of spin on the Vader story this will be because we have so many. What's interesting is we have a lot of Vader comics. I mean, Vader's in every been dominating the comics since the beginning.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Vader books with Vader in them. There aren't a lot. I mean, he's a little bit. I mean, he's Tarkin. He's in Throne Alliances. He's in Dark Lords. I think he's like in Catalyst once, but that's like a scene. But he isn't in a lot of actual novels. I mean, some of that just because so many of the novels these days is High Republic. Um, and he's a little bit in Red Blade, of course, because that makes it Inquisitors. But yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see an actual Vader novel and not a Vader comic. I'm curious how this will stand out from with the others and not feel don't feel like we've covered this ground already.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, this sounds really cool. I love Adam Christopher Shadow the Sith, and this seems like another another interesting one on the docket for him. So I can't wait.
And it's interesting, this cover here. The first thing I thought of when I saw that this was going to be his book is, oh yeah, we have that weird amorphous Force ghost thing where, is it Anakin, is it Vader in Shadow of the Sith? Of course, the Ahsoka series gives a much clearer picture of Anakin, but because Force ghosts, only Jedi can be Force ghosts. But this, yeah, like the mask here, it's mangled. This is almost a vision itself. It's the kind of thing we'd see Giuseppe Camuncoli draw in the Vader comic. He has the kind of the red spindly visions of himself in the dark side that that comic shows us. We talk about where it lines up in the canon. I'm not too worried. I do think the story group. I think Adam Christopher was taking this comic and said, okay, I want to build into this some more. I don't think there's going to be no retconning. There's going to be nothing of that. Sure, it's going to show a different angle, maybe a different aspect of it. And it sounds like it's going to take that moment and yeah, expand on it, build it out. Right. And this title really clues me into this because, Master of Evil, right? The quote from, guess who? Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope, only a master of evil, Darth. The line, the tables now turned, whatever it is. I was once the student, now I'm the master. And then the retort, only a master of evil. And so, and that's the whole thing with the crystal. And this is the thing, this is what I'm trying to say here. I think it'll really dig deep into this moment, this vision that Vader has that of him turning back to being Anakin and going to Obi-Wan, saying I'm sorry and saying how can I make it right. This limitless, what was it called? The limitless potential of the Force. To create a new reality potentially, and so that's at least what he thinks and how he wants to control this. Maybe what he sees in the vision, but he wants to make something of it real because maybe he sees Padme. Sorry, maybe he sees Padme. Maybe he's another way to bring her back. What I like the most about this is, again, the character story. This is the personal and the cosmic coming together here. The character story that Palpatine is, of course, constantly using everything about Padme to give Vader this opportunity to reject his past life. That is how the crystal bleeds, right? He rejects that vision of apologizing to Obi-Wan and instead says that he didn't kill Anakin, Vader killed Anakin, to take that step to becoming a master of evil, to giving into and giving himself over to the ways of the Sith. And that's it's funny because we've talked a lot about how Vader, we don't see him doing very many Sith things. We see him being the Emperor's pitbull. We see him doing kind of, well, not political, military things. But here, just as in the Vader comic, he really he's going to go into this dark side mythos and lore and tradition, if you will. And actually, yeah, trying to, he's going to be a space wizard again, right? He's not just the enforcer. He's another space wizard. He's a dark space wizard, but he's a space wizard. And so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, the thing about the novel, I think maybe I mentioned this, the reason it's hard to write Vader in prose because you gotta keep on hearing the breath is such a part of it. I mean, even in the comic, you have to kind of insert that. But in a comic, his visual form makes up for the lack of sound. It's so imposing, it's so iconic. Whereas here we're gonna have to constantly remember it and keep it in mind. And maybe that's what this cover, this weird mangly cover is supposed to evoke. That this is this character, this great iconic villain. We're going to talk about him in the second half of the show. That he's Darth Vader. He's the Dark Lord of the Sith. He's the greatest villain in all of fiction, and one of the greatest characters in all of fiction, and at least our favorite, one of our favorites. And he's as central to Star Wars. Darth Vader, not just Anakin Skywalker. Darth Vader is as central to Star Wars as Luke Skywalker, and as definitely as Rey, or as Anakin or Padme. So yeah,
Let's face it. I think 9 times out of 10, when you think about Star Wars, Darth Vader is probably the first thing you think of.
Yeah, probably, and probably sells more merch than anyone else. So yeah, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be fascinating. November 11th. All these novels kind of tying us over because High Republic's gonna be done. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this. Do you have any last thoughts on this one?
No. I'm just kind of curious where this all leads. It sounds very spooky, and I love it. So,
all right, we got one more news story to get through. Joel, do you want to get excited about footnotes?
Yeah.
Excited about footnotes? Let's get excited about footnotes.
Oh, I love footnotes. Who doesn't love a good footnote?
So speaking of Revenge of the Sith, speaking of Darth Vader,
you write notes with your foot, right?
Yes,
I can do that.
That's what footnotes are. No. So continuing on with our Revenge of the Sith, our GOAT party, Revenge of the Sith at 20, the Legends edition. We have another bit of news about this incredible looking reissue. I forget what's the official deluxe edition or something. So Tom, Darth Turnus, basically the Penguin Random House editor for Star Wars, on Blue Sky, he teased the annotations. So there'll be 170 of these annotations in Matthew Stover's Revenge of the Sith novelization that releases on October 14th of this year. And I was mentioning they're going to be footnotes, and as opposed to they could have done like margin notes or some end notes or some other way of doing it. I mean, the fact that we're getting them is incredible, but why footnotes? I mean, why not? Well, I'll give you the sample. I'll just show you what this looks like. This is page 19. I picked this one. I'll read it out for the audio listeners in a minute, but those watching can see this, that it really helps space things out nicely. This is what Tom writes on the Blue Sky, helps space things out nicely, lets them be longer compared to, say, the margin notes or other alternatives. So you get a full page novel here, and you get these annotations as long as you want. It also gives them more flexibility. It makes it even feel more intellectual and more academic almost. I mean, just gets us in that mindset of we're digging deeper into this incredibly deep novel already and whatnot. So yeah, just really getting to the literary background and everything. In the Blue Sky post, Tom says you should expect everything from creative insights, behind the scenes stories, call outs of Easter eggs, information, even writing tips, and so much more. And so I've got this example here from page 19. And the reason I brought this one, he gave us a few examples. I chose this one because, I mean, one of the things, I've only read this novel once, but one of the things it really does, really adds.
Need to read it again.
Yeah, well, after, when I get this and pick this thing up, I will. The whole "this is" moments, just knowing, because I mean, on the spine, this is how it feels to be Anakin Skywalker forever, is when Vader's enclosed in the armor. This was the first, so this is the first "this is Obi-Wan Kenobi" moment. And you see, for those who can see, this little 2 on top there, kind of the footnote there, and then at the bottom, it's a little 2. And so I'll read this out. Those who know the novel know what I'm talking about here, but kind of the "this is Obi-Wan Kenobi." And Matthew Stover here writes, this is the first of the freeze frame passages. The idea was to pause things for a moment so I can shift your attention toward these people's inner lives, toward how they view what's happening, how it feels, what it means to them. As you'll see, this ends up producing a variety of effects, and especially really ends up demarcating and marking this novel as very iconic. It's a very iconic part of this novel. That's why, yeah, it's something I really remember from this book. And so these bio sketches, the this is so and so ones, they're mostly there to evoke for casual readers. This is interesting. Some of the long time reader experiences and long time viewer experiences. Uh, but they're also for long time readers themselves to remind them why they love these people. And here's another interesting thing, to introduce specific versions of them that are to be found in this book. So the characters we know and love. We know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is. Star Wars fans know who this character is. But, when we're just reading this in whatever, 2005 or whatever, this is the specific version that is maybe different. It's a different medium, right? The medium is the message. A different medium than the film. That's another thing.
Agree with is completely different in the book.
Yeah, and it adds different details and even facts. It's almost a different story in some ways. I mean, it is.
Oh, in big ways, it's a different story.
Yeah, and so it's a different text, and so that reminds us of this fact. Talking about these first few freeze frame passages, not coincidentally at all. This is, of course, in the big space battle at the beginning, right? They break up that sequence into distinctive beats, and so it makes it painless to switch between points of view and control the pace. And I love this because really digging into what the thought process is Matthew Stover did when he set out to write this book, and maybe looking back and saying, oh, this is what the effect was. I mean, I think a lot of these things may have been second nature to him, just kind of what comes out. But sure, the whole this is device definitely was something he plotted out and planned. And so, yeah, thinking about pacing and thinking about points of view, just these literary things that, I never took a university English class. I should have. I took high school English, of course, but I never took university English. So this is giving me this sort of literary background here. So yeah, I'm really excited to read and dig into these notes. Just you know how we are here at Ion Canon Podcast. We just always want to go deeper. There's always deeper, and so I'm really excited for everything that Matthew Stover brings.
Review this book. Let's review the book.
Yeah, we should. I mean, honestly, I was just saying I'm going to be probably leafing through and just reading the footnotes.
Well, I want to actually talk about the story and the difference between the movie.
Yeah, we should for sure. But yeah, definitely also reading the footnotes. I do have it on Kindle, just without the footnotes, the original one. So might dive into that. But yeah, really, really excited for, again, the annotations are the big selling point for me. Also, just, that beautiful cover that I showed the other week. Yeah, everything about this. I love this story. I love this film so much. So, like I said, I'm going to see it 3 times next week. So, yeah, really looking forward to, even probably insights about the story, about the film that Matthew Stover brought while he was writing this book, because that's the thing this novel does, is it gives a fresh view on Revenge of the Sith, kind of like the way the Darth Plagueis novel brings a fresh view on the prequel trilogy as a whole. So yeah, so much to get excited about. Footnotes, why not? So yeah, Joel, I'll let you dive in here. What are your thoughts on especially just the way the footnotes are going to be, the fact they're going to be footnotes, and just the annotations and everything you're looking forward to with this?
Oh yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the insights, and because I've heard from listening to forums and stuff like that, and I'm never quite sure how much it's true, but I tend to believe it's true, that George gave Matthew Stover certain insights. And to be fair, it's like a call he and George had on the phone, but of the backstory of the Jedi and Sith, and just why were the Sith wanting revenge? What was the revenge of the Sith all about? Not like the theme of the movie, but okay, the Sith are having a revenge. What are they revenging against? So I'm curious. Although that some of that stuff might be under NDA, I'm curious if that NDA is finally
Hmm.
over, and
Hmm.
of Matthew Stowe was allowed to talk about, because he was told stuff about like what Darth Bane was all about and what the Sith Order's origins were, if we
Hmm.
believe the Phantom Menace novelization. Um, and this is like coming from George, so this is the George version of events, which is different from what was happening in Legend at the time.
True.
So I'm just curious about like what George said to Stover about like, oh, this is what the universe is like, and
Hmm.
this is kind of the story, and this is why the revenge of the Sith is so important, and blah 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 blah. So I'm looking forward to kind of those insights as
Yeah.
well.
And again, none of this is canon, but all of this is instructive and helps us think in a certain direction. And so, why not? Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's expensive, but I think payday is coming up. So I'm going to pre-order it. Got to do it.
I'll wait a little bit before I pre-order it, but
Gotcha.
I will.
Although he did say if folks are on the fence, are going to get it, pre-orders definitely help. Um, just like with Trials of the Jedi, if that pre-order, with Charles Soule really, giving us a nice, um, I think I mentioned this, the pre-order of Trials of the Jedi, you email in a copy of your receipt and ask what character you want a line of dialogue from, and they'll send and your address, and they'll send you a book plate
Oh,
or
nice.
something. So this kind of, I don't know, I don't think this will have the same kind of thing, but definitely pre-orders help. I mean, obviously gauge reader interest and buyer interest in this, and so because like this is going to happen, it's going to sell like hotcakes, but make sure Penguin Random House knows that, and to make sure they know that is by pre-ordering. There, I'm not getting paid by this. I'll take a free copy for sure, but no, I'm not getting paid by this, but for this, but um, yeah, just putting that out there that if you're on the fence and you think you want to get this, then get this, because it looks absolutely incredible and fantastic. All right, got some. Bring this down. Got this. Again, I wish. I will gladly be paid in a free copy of this. Manifesting that into the universe. Why not? Of course. Comicraft, Tyler Smith, everyone. Good to see you there, Tyler. Alrighty. I've done a lot of talking. I'm about to do a lot of talking again, but let's dive into our main topic.
The chosen one. He has risen and become a force ghost. Hallelujah. I had to. All right.
Yes, you
Yes,
did.
the chosen one. The chosen one. The boy may be nevertheless great danger. I sense in his training. You are the chosen one. I think you are the chosen one. So many chosen ones. Yes. This episode we're going to be going on to the concept of the chosen one. So this will be a discussion, not a little bit about Anakin's character, of course, but more so on this part of his character. The whole he is the chosen one, what it means for the meta story of Star Wars, what it means in universe, out of universe, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think before we even get into any of like the how, whys, and whens, let's just pull back and let's ask this question. What is a chosen one? What does it mean to be a Messiah? What is a Messiah? And once again, I turn back to Matthew to give us a little bit of a look at the broad idea of what is a Messiah.
All right, so here we go. So Messiah literally means, it's Hebrew. It's an anglicization of the Hebrew word for anointed one. I believe the word literally is connected to the word for oil, because the idea was that the king would be part of the coronation, or I don't know if it's necessarily a literal coronation, but part of it, the installation is that the priest would take a bucket of oil and dunk it on his head and smell really nice, and that was a sign.
Get the matches away from them as
Yes.
quickly.
No, it was like, yeah, sure. It was a sign that this king was chosen by God to lead the people. And of course, the now a little bit of an advert here. The Bible is incredibly realistic, and believe it or not, and when you have an idea like that, it actually tells the story of how that goes south, um, or in this case, goes east, because those kings end up making way too much of that and thinking they're invincible and they can do whatever they want, and as a result, slide into deeper and deeper into corruption, and then the people are carted away to Assyria and Babylon, and that's called the exile, Babylonian exile. And even when they return from exile, they uh, it isn't the same. There isn't this new golden age. They aren't free. They're vassals of different empires. They're or client states of different empires. Different Greek
Mostly Rome,
empires.
I could imagine.
Ultimately, the Roman Empire, yeah, but also again, still the Assyrian Empire and the Babylonian Empire, um, and whatnot. Never, I mean, able to do varying levels of freedom. Um, a hundred or so years before Jesus, the uh, Assyrian Greeks, just after one of the Alexandrian successors, comes in and basically ransacks the temple and sacrifices a pig on the altar, which defiles the temple in their imagination, their mindset, because pigs aren't kosher, just letting you know. So the idea of someone to come and restore the nation, it gets more intense, more intensified, because they're kind of oppressed a little bit. They're occupied. The Romans come in and things are okay. It's a hotbed, but then the Romans crack down on that hotbed of revolt. And all through this time, this idea that a successor of David, King David, because David was when the golden age was, supposedly, would come and restore the nation. And so that gets taken up into this cosmic belief called Second Temple Judaism, in this belief that an anointed savior, God would send an anointed savior to save, to restore the nation, to free it from uh from slavery, from well, not slavery, from occupation. I mean, similar like the way Moses freed the Israelites from slavery. So that Christians end up doing something weird with that, because there's this parallel tradition where this is kind of complicated, but uh, the Israelites, the Judeans in exile and under occupation, oppression, are taken, have this image of being this suffering servant who carries the sins of the world, and so that occupation is considered sort of this punishment on behalf of the rest of the world. And so there's this image of the suffering servant there. Christians say, oh yeah, it's one the same and it's one person. And then they go a step farther. They say actually that this Jesus of Nazareth is God himself. And so that even more intensified. Star Wars never goes that far. We've mentioned this before. Never says that Anakin is the instantiation of the Force, but definitely when you think chosen one, George Lucas was drawing from different religions. He definitely drawing from Taoism, drawing from other ideas. Christianity and Judaism are not the only religions to have ideas of chosen ones. I believe what's the Hindu Diwali? Is it Diwali that comes around in November? The Hindu religion has this idea of a king coming who vanquishes evil, vanquishes an evil god, and there are different ideas there, but this idea of a chosen one in the prequels, especially, is George at his most Western and his most Christian, I would say. Part of the whole point with the virgin birth, there. I mean, that's the interesting thing is part of Anakin's anointing is that he has a virgin birth. Um, part of from Shmi, so part of Jesus' divinity is uh, well, that's kind of it's kind of the other way around, right? We believe in the virgin birth because we believe in the divinity of Jesus, and so um, George pulling that on that thread as well. So that's the idea. Basically, someone who the cosmos or the cosmic will that drives. So first of all, I believe I'll back up here. Say first of all, the belief in a chosen one requires a belief in someone or something that chooses. The belief in a cosmic will to actually uh, pick a time, pick a person, pick a place uh, to do that. So of course in Star Wars it's the Force. In Judaism, Christianity, it's the monotheistic belief, right? Um, so there, Islam has, I mean, takes some of this more, calls Jesus a prophet. I believe Islam, I mean, kind of attributes some of this to the prophet, some of this to the Quran itself, I think, from my understanding. But the idea of saying, okay, yeah, there will be a person, a time, and a place for this restoration to happen. And again, Christianity is weird because that's what this week is all about, is to say that this restoration doesn't look like it. That's what's weird. It doesn't look like it. There's still violence, there's still war, there's still evil in the world. But the belief that this restoration has already happened in Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, as in the crucifixion, the suffering servant, and the resurrection, the victorious king, come together. And so the idea of time being a focal point for time and a focal point for a person, a focal point for a place, uh, set apart and chosen for the restoration of the cosmos to balance, to right relationships, and the person to bring that about. So that's the thing. And it often involves longing. It often involves waiting, hoping, the word hope. And so, of course, Jews and Christians and others believe that this hope will be realized, that restoration will be realized at the end, at the end of time. And so that it does have very apocalyptic sense to it, even though again Star Wars isn't really very apocalyptic. There's no end of time, but what we do have is the Skywalker saga, and we do have, what we do have especially is Anakin's moment on the Death Star and what he does there. So um, I hope that helps, Joel. I don't know if that clarifies some things. Helps you understand what we mean by this. If you have any questions, let me know.
Well, let's just get into it, and we'll kind of piece out
Sure.
what we were talking about through it. So, I now that we kind of gotten through the basics, I kind of want to talk about just the story of. Let me take a water myself, actually.
Yeah, good call.
Dry.
Good call. Hydrate.
Good drink. Good drink. I want to talk about just the story of Star Wars itself, and something that I just think interesting. I have no, negative or positive feelings about it. Is just the fact that the question I guess we have to ask ourselves is, why did George add this aspect to Star Wars 20 years later, more or less?
Yeah.
Right, because if when we look at Star Wars, we can talk about chronological order we want, but if we look at Star Wars from release order and the history of just how these things were perceived, the original trilogy does not at all indicate that Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader is the chosen one of any sorts. He is Darth Vader. He is Luke's father. His choice to toss the Emperor down a reactor shaft is a personal one of, hey, I love my son, and I realize that I got to make the right call for once in my life. After a lifetime of bad calls, I'm going to do it. And to be fair, I'm not saying that the chosen one aspect changes that perspective at all. Um,
Mhm.
but the entirety of you could to just call spade a spade. It wasn't planned. I don't think George ever had that in mind when he at least up in back in 1983. Maybe when he
Right.
started episode one, sure, but I don't think back in 1983 he was saying to them, "Oh yeah, Anakin, he's actually a chosen one." It's all about the grand
Mhm.
prophecy. That's what it's all building to. Right? There's no Yoda going, "You chosen one now, Anakin, screw up. Now your turn." Like everyone going, "Yes, your father was a great pilot. It was also the chosen one, you see, or at least we thought so at the time. Maybe you are the chosen one now."
Right.
So this whole chosen one storyline, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term, well, obviously does wrap up with episode 6. It's a very retroactive wrapping up because we now added in episode 1.
Mhm.
It is a it is talked about in the prequels, and then we're just looking at the text of the films.
Mhm.
The whole chosen one aspect gets dropped in the movies and kind of never comes back in the movies, or at least the original 6 movies. I should probably
Sure.
clarify.
Yeah.
At least clarify. Um, Although it didn't come back in 7 through 9 either, really. Um,
Only implicitly with
at least
Ray.
implicitly. So it's one of those interesting things of like I've always kind of wondered. I've always wondered two things. One, why go this direction in the
Mhm.
first place? I mean, I don't even think it's like a bad thing. I just think it's interesting. Of
Mhm.
like, we're now gonna add this aspect to Vader Anakin's character now,
Yeah.
and quasi retroactively change the meaning of what he does. Not necessarily. I mean, obviously, I still think when push comes to shove, it was because of Luke and Padme
Mhm.
and all that. But now there is sort of a more divine reason that this was going to happen regardless. Like, the chosen one prophecy did come to pass. It just took a long time.
Yeah.
We had to wait, and our chosen one went downhill a little bit. But he got back up on his feet 30 years later. It all worked out. So there's that,
Mhm.
and there's also kind of my personal
Mhm.
thing, which I can never truly prove is how much of a sacred cow was this to George himself, especially when you hear things about, oh, Leia was going to be the chosen one in his
Right.
sequels and stuff like that. And guess none of that matters now. Um, so that's kind of neither here nor there. But I do think it is an interesting
Mhm.
thing to kind of look at in terms of this kind of important aspect of Star Wars that doesn't exist in the original trilogy pre the Phantom Menace,
Right.
and then it's added on with Phantom Menace.
Mhm.
And I'm just kind of curious why George decided to go that direction. I don't even have like a negative or positive.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting. What are your thoughts?
I mean, the first thing I'm thinking about is so he set out to write the prequel story to show the story of why Anakin fell to the dark side.
Right.
Primarily, that's the prequel trilogy
Yes.
writ large, right? Also, why the galaxy fell to the Empire, right? I mean, the two mirror each other. The two are again the cosmic, political, personal wrapped up into each other. Um, he had to think about what kind of pressure Anakin would be under, what kind of ways in which both in universe and out of universe he would be hyped up
Hmm.
and set up on this pedestal that Palpatine would continually chip away at, right?
Hmm.
And in their own way, inadvertently, the Jedi would keep chipping away at. So that was, I think, part of it, just as a
Means for drama.
a dramatic reason. That's kind of the narrative dramatic reason for it.
Hmm.
Partly, maybe Anakin we know never really takes much stock in it. We'll get into another example of that later on.
Hmm.
Um, talk about another universe, but um, yeah, that people around him, and then Matthew Stover goes into this plenty, right? People
Right.
around him are like, all the hype money can buy, all the hype credits can buy. This is what a great, especially during the Clone Wars, what a great Jedi, what a great
Yeah.
talent. and the
He's like a
Jedi,
football star. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, Anakin Skywalker.
yeah, and that kind of gets to his head a little bit, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
um, and to the point where he says, "I can save Padme from certain death. Why not? Figure that out." But also, yeah, to give that weight to that character, it is a way of connecting the cosmic to the personal, right? It is a way of saying, again, it's not like he's the embodiment of the force, but it's a way of saying that the force moves in mysterious ways. That mysterious means things we can't see. It also means things we can and have to figure out why, or not entirely clear about why. Especially, George set out to say, oh yeah, maybe he's the chosen one, but he's going to cause a lot of death and destruction for a good chunk of the time. How do you get around that one? And you talk about how it doesn't change any of the facts. It doesn't change Anakin's experience,
right?
On the second Death Star there,
right?
But it's Tolkienian in the sense of, Bilbo in The Hobbit, he finds the ring, and I was actually watching something about this recently. Bilbo finds the ring, and he blacks out for this whole battle, and then ends up finding the ring randomly. Frodo doesn't make this heroic climb to Mount Doom and says, I am chucking this overboard. No, he gives into the temptation of it. And he's also in the film. Sam has to carry him up. Sam's the hero of this thing. Sam has to carry him up. And it only goes into Mount Doom because Gollum happens to be there and takes a chomp of his finger. Right? Anakin becomes the chosen one in spite of everything he had done, in spite of Vader, and just happens to be in the right place at the right time. And that the Force woos through his love for his son and his love for his wife. I mean, that's the thing. I say this all the time. The thing, Anakin is seeing the son of Padme writhing on the floor there, and he has a chance to save the one he loves. And again, the perfect, I keep on saying this, perfect confluence of the cosmic and the personal. I love it so much. And so that, the cosmic and the personal, the cosmic of, what, the Force is moving and doing to preserve life. And has said in this way of saying that Anakin is this agent of preserving life. I mean, talk about Mortis, right? Mortis is all about this. Mortis being this image of life and balance, and Anakin is there to be the one to preserve it, despite, and it's that thing with that vision that he ends up forgetting. We've talked about this, the deleted scenes of this, but despite everything he goes through. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely gives it that cosmic backstory, because the original trilogy doesn't really go that far back. It only goes really to the political, and then kind of vaguely about restoring the Jedi and exploring the Force. And it is more, the way I heard described it, it's George that is more Eastern, and the prequels are George that is more Western. And and then that moment at the end brings the two together. Reading the whole text together. So, that's kind of my thought there. The different ways, different literary, and also, the actual in-universe reason for this.
Yeah, one thing I think I want to add, well, two things actually. One, did you know that apparently, according to Tolkien, and if you actually read the book, that it's actually the Middle-earth god that tosses Gollum down Mount Doom in the book. Yeah,
It
that
wouldn't
actually, like,
surprise me.
it hints that Miller's god. What's his name? Arda Edu.
Yeah, Arda, I think. Yeah.
Iluvatar. Like
Iluvatar, yeah, that's all.
kind of when Gollum's doing his dance of like, I got the ring, I got the ring. He kind of like just, yeah, you know what? He's kind of like, you know what, Frodo, you did good. You got there. I'll help you out with this like last
Yeah,
one.
that's funny.
There you go,
Yeah,
Gollum. Down you go.
yeah,
He kind of like interfered for like 5 seconds. Okay. Um,
yeah. Maybe
but
to clarify what I wanted to say, just to jump in, it gives that kind of, because there isn't going to be a god in Star Wars in the same way. There's the Force,
Mhm.
and it's also, it gives kind of, from George as a storyteller, gives this galaxy a cosmic coherence to it, right? That there is this entity that can choose Anakin
like
and
to
move
nudge
and
things in the right direction. I always
to
feel like.
nudge things, but to have this kind of plan. And it also grounds, all the Jedi that we've seen since, and all the faith that they have, especially through High Republic,
Mhm,
but also even Obi-Wan, even others,
mhm.
even Qui-Gon, right? It also, is a reason to bring out Qui-Gon's faith and Qui-Gon's sensitivity. Um, it's an example of it, but again, it's not just the character. It's, again, why did George do this? Well, so what does this involve and entail? You know, and it's shown in Qui-Gon's sensitivity to this. That Claudia Gray also picks up, which I have in the notes. But
Right.
yeah,
I do think that maybe my hottest take is I think fans put a lot more weight on the Chosen One
it's
stuff
probably
than I
true.
think even George would. Only because
Hmm.
I I think it's important to remember both George's sequels
Hmm.
and anything like before and after Phantom Menace and Episode 6
Hmm.
are always kind of last minute additions. Because I think, as far as George is concerned, and he said it himself,
Yeah.
the real story of Star Wars is 1 through 6 and everything in between. Everything in between is there to
Hmm.
supplement and just reinforce what's already on the screen.
Hmm.
That was what Clone Wars was doing. That
Hmm.
what Underworld was going to do. So,
Yeah.
and I think that once you go beyond that kind of barrier, once George decides, oh, maybe I will do a sequel. Maybe I will. And like,
Hmm.
no, no, maybe not. No, just sell to Disney. Um, that's where I think the Chosen One aspect, as sort of a bookend
Hmm.
to the story of Star Wars, starts to get iffy because
Sure.
ultimately, you know, Palpatine does live, and he lives both in Legends and canon. So
Yeah.
in the Legends continuity, he lives, um and and there's lots of dark side things after him. Some are even worse than Palpatine, quite frankly.
Hmm.
There's lots of Sith after Palpatine, I'll tell you that. You got Jason Solo becoming a Sith Lord. You got Darth Krayt and his one Sith.
Hmm.
There's lots of Sith.
Well, that's why
Um,
George thinks that they didn't count.
yeah, that's why George thinks they don't count.
Hmm.
But now that we kind of are all on the level here, and everything does kind of have more of a weight to it because it all counts now,
Hmm.
more or less. I think both fans and even creators themselves kind of have to work around the. Well, Episode 6 was the end of Star Wars history, but nope. Now we can go further. Like, and hopefully
Hmm.
we'll start seeing Rey's Jedi Order and what kind of baddie she's gonna have to deal with. Be they evil demons or just jerks, just regular jerks,
Hmm.
who just don't like Jedi or something. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. So I think that I think in terms of the story, when Star Wars is the story of Anakin Skywalker 1 through 6, yeah, the Chosen One prophecy is super important.
Hmm.
I think, and I think then once you go beyond that, then I think it kind of depends on who's telling it. Like, I can definitely see. I mean, obviously, we know Soka's gonna deal with some Mortisy stuff, which is gonna be fun.
Hmm.
Of course, but eventually it's like, well, Rey's got her own problems to deal with. I don't think Anakin. I mean, unless they're like the Sons of Vader 3.0, which is always possible. You don't know. She's got her own prophecies and weird things to deal with, and
Yeah.
who knows? Or once we even go beyond episode 9, which if the Sean Levy movie is to be believed, then soon.
Right.
Excitement on that. And of course, then there's the whole, well, Leia was going to be the chosen one. Apparently, George, which that's what he said. I mean, that's what he
True.
said. I don't I mean, he never got to
Sure.
make it, so who knows what was in that brain of his, and maybe he was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna retroactively change what the chosen one prophecy means because I say so.
Mhm.
Um, so it's one of those things where I think also it's kind of good to know that it's important to the story of Anakin that once we start kind of going a bit more beyond the story of Anakin,
Yeah.
um, that's when things get a little bit more wishy-washy. I don't know if wishy-washy is even the right word, but definitely
Complicated.
complicated. Especially when our people
Yeah.
kind of want more of a apocalyptic. I think fans really are very Christian and they want their apocalyptic, and then they all live happily
Yeah.
after type
Uh,
of deal.
yeah. I mean, definitely. Right. I mean, like I had a whole podcast devoted to this, audio only. For Christ's sake, Anakin, it's still there, I think, on Spotify, or maybe not, maybe on Apple Podcasts. I don't know.
Mhm.
And where I developed all these thoughts and really explored them because I'm a Christian, guys. What can you say? But to say that's why, yeah, I definitely bring in, this is the lens I bring into this, right?
Of course.
The real world lens, which we all do. We all bring in these lenses. And so for that reason, really latched onto and made a lot of big deal of what George was doing with this prequel story and the way the prequels. I mean, that's a big thing I thought through and worked through, is the way the prequels changed the original trilogy
Mhm.
and changed the story. What you're getting at is the way the sequels changed the Skywalker saga
I would just
as a
say
whole.
the way we've kind of unlocked beyond the Star
Yeah,
Skywalker saga in a way
that
too.
too. But especially the way the sequels recontextualize maybe how we're supposed to think and especially feel about Anakin's return.
Mhm.
I think I think Dom was saying a few times that Ahsoka and then everything with Luke is going to
And Leia.
do,
And
and Leia, but everything we see with them are going to do more to look back on Anakin's story, because season 1 of Ahsoka did a lot of that too,
oh yeah.
right? My
Mhm.
favorite live action episode 5, did lots of that. So, and but also for what that means for Ahsoka, right?
Right.
And it'll be what that means for Luke.
Mhm.
But we can't help but ask the question, even with that episode 5, they didn't give us an answer, but we couldn't help but ask the question, what does this mean for Anakin?
Mhm.
And I think that's still a salient question, still a relevant question.
Mhm.
Why we're talking about this now? Like, what is um, what does Anakin being a Force ghost mean for Anakin? I have the Hayden action figure back here. If you can, I don't know how clear it is, but I got the Hayden action figure back here,
Mhm.
as opposed to the was it the Luke Shaw? Not Luke Shaw. Who's the why am I blanking?
Oh shoot!
David
I
Prowse.
no.
No,
It's
you know what I'm talking about.
Sebastian Shaw. Sebastian Shaw.
Sebastian Shaw.
I always want to say Sebastian
Luke
Stan,
Shaw.
but different.
Luke Shaw. Who's Luke Shaw? Sebastian Shaw. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we can ask why. George has an answer for that too, and I don't fully know if I get the answer, but why it's Hayden, um, in universe at least. But yeah, so that's still a relevant question. It's just thrown up in the air by Rey, by everything she does in Rise of Skywalker. So
Well, no, I mean, I would
a
even
little bit.
argue going back to just making an episode 7 and saying, "Hey, there's a
Yeah,
new
it's
evil
true.
empire. There's no Darksiders." And you can see, I mean,
Yeah,
Rise of Skywalker just makes it more complicated, where they're like, "Oh shoot, Palpatine actually is alive. I guess
yeah.
the Sith aren't destroyed."
So
I have like my own interpretations of how I like to deal with
yeah.
that to make it make sense to me, but
So
and we can
I
deal
just
with
want to
that.
say, you talk about the complication though, and that's the
Mhm,
thing is, so Claudia Gray kind of goes with this master and apprentice. Um, so she brings it up. This is where we see the actual thing: a chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him the ultimate balance in the force be restored. There is a real world Bible version of that. A virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel. So here's the interesting thing. I brought up this, that
mhm,
Christianity is weird in how specific it got with interpreting that prophecy.
mhm,
Um, Whereas other Jewish sects, because Christianity was a Jewish sect at first, and then it became its own thing. Other Jewish sects, again, had all these different ways of interpreting these things. Yeah, some of them believed in, a lot of them believed in the descendant of David, the physical descendant of David would become and be crowned as king and lead an army, an armed revolt against the imperial occupation. Others maybe had different ideas of being a prophet or something, but none of them believed the guy would be executed for it. They believed he'd succeed. So again, that's another weird thing about Christianity is that. But all that to say is prophecies by definition are vague. Not by definition necessarily, but by convention of the future. Prophecies of the future are vague because again they believe in they require, I think I'm true, they require this entity outside of time. I'm getting very weird here. I know this is going to sound very weird, but and I'm getting at the point of how prophecy kind of more properly works, but requires this entity outside of time, through time, to actually act and speak and give people these prophecies. Right. And so the idea that some ancient Jedi concocted this idea of a chosen one shall come, born of no father, through him ultimate balance in the force shall be restored. That guy probably has no idea. Whoever Jedi thinks of that has no idea what that means. Maybe has some clear idea. But here's the thing. Again, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son. Isaiah writing that, he thinks it's a metaphor. He thinks it's, here's the funny word, an allegory. He thinks he's talking about the whole nation. And that gets complicated because Christians will say, oh yeah, Jesus is just the embodiment of the nation and the perfect consummation of it and all that. But that feeds into it. So it's not fair. Well, I won't say it's not fair. It's not accurate to a Christian understanding to say that it's all or nothing, that we're denying the idea that it's the nation. But we got to remember, Isaiah has no idea. Again, he just thinks that Israel will be as pure as if it were born from a virgin. And that is why it'll be able to be the means of salvation for the whole world. And so all that to say, always emotion is the future. These things are vague. Because here's the thing, is Isaiah is speaking to his own time. Right. And he's saying Israel isn't, the people aren't as pure as a virgin. That's why they aren't, they, like I said, their kings are corrupt. Taking, and so that's why they aren't, that's why they're under the heel of these occupying powers around them. So that's, again, it's a complicated reading these prophecies. Yeah, we have, Christianity has, and Judaism has 3,000 years of experience with this. So we kind of know a little bit what we're doing, but in the moment, it's tricky. It's complicated. So, yeah.
Oh, so I got a couple of responses to that. I think the first one is, I think if we were to ask George before he decided to make sequels, I think it's not complicated. I think he would go, yes, Anakin's the chosen one. He did the thing.
He's a Zen Methodist. Yes.
Or he's over. It's done.
Yeah.
My own interpretation is also similar in that I do think he was the chosen one. I think he did the thing. Yeah. I think that the Force was so out of whack when Plagueis and Palpatine doing their thing, and just Palpatine eventually doing his thing with the Empire, then when Palpatine got destroyed on Endor. Here's the thing. I do believe Palpatine got destroyed on Endor. His power was broken when he died, when the Empire fell, the darkness ended, and there were good times. I don't even necessarily think, I think people wrongly look at Palpatine's return as a re-rise to power, and I don't. I think Palpatine is way weaker during those 30 years on Exegol being a zombie than he is, and once again, being an all-powerful Dark Lord. I always see it as This is Palpatine lashing out. This is a scared man doing his last desperate gambit
Right.
and just failing badly at it. This is not him. Revenge of the Sith was his zenith of power. This is just a very shallow, broken. I mean, he's a zombie. That's if you want like the physical representation of Palpatine's power. That's it. He got like
Yeah.
one teeny second of getting to be fleshy again, and then he
Hmm.
exploded. So I've always believed that is.
Hmm.
That's my interpretation. That yeah, Anakin did it. He did restore balance of the Force,
Yeah.
feed the Sith, and the Palpatine tried one more time, and he was only successful for like 5 seconds.
Sure.
So
That's a good. Yeah. Maybe. I mean that's also a way then of connecting. See what we'll see in Ahsoka
mhm,
to the sequel trilogy in a way
mhm.
that's probably more interesting than okay, what's Project Necromancer doing? Where's that at? I'm more interested in Mortis and Anakin and Ahsoka's place in that, and to have that cast light on the sequel trilogy. Yeah,
I have a
that's
feeling this
interesting.
necromancer stuff won't pay off until either the movie or one of the
I
sequels.
know that's my point. Is I'm saying like I'm more interested in this sort of in bearing out maybe what you're saying
Mhm.
is actually maybe because that's what's like. I mean, I'm saying of course I think Anakin's the chosen one and he does bring balance to the Force, and I do like how you resolve that is interesting. So I hadn't actually thought of that too much, because we do tend to think that the sequel trilogy undoes what happens in the original trilogy, but yeah, maybe not. I mean, again, we need shows like Ahsoka and others to maybe flesh that out a little more.
I think you
Which
can
is
make it work. That's what
yeah,
headcan's all about. I just think
yeah,
you can just
true,
explain it out. I actually
true.
got
You
that from
just
somebody.
did. Yeah, sorry.
I actually got that from somewhere else. I
Mhm.
got from another YouTuber who also both used the Legends and canon version of Palpatine's
Interesting.
return to pretty much just say, yeah, that wasn't Palpatine getting power back. That was just kind of a last gasp of a very broken Sith Lord
Yeah,
who doesn't really have the same sort of zenith anymore.
I mean, like the alt right.
Yeah, kind of. They're very shallow.
Yeah.
Very shallow, and it's a
Please let
house.
me into your country. I'm happy to come to San Diego Comic Con.
Yes. So I kind of want to talk about now.
Hmm.
One of the reasons why I've always been okay with the whole chosen one thing,
Hmm.
and why it's never bothered me, is because I've always liked the fact in a lot of movies, and this is
Hmm.
this is actually where I think Star Wars actually does get complicated again.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of movies are a lot of other movies with chosen ones are kind of straightforward. I think of The Matrix. I think of Harry Potter. Unfortunately, um, Avatar:
Hmm.
The Last Airbender. Not so much. That's more of a Buddhist thing because it's reincarnation, and there's the idea of
Hmm.
like there's every generation there's like a person who will like always maintain balance in the universe, and when they
Interesting.
die they'll like be reincarnated
Yeah.
into a different person, sort of like a mix of the chosen one and the Dalai Lama. 'Cause
Hmm.
that show is very Buddhist centric. Again,
Hmm.
you need to watch Avatar: Last Airbender. Filoni worked on it, and it's really
You're the
good.
second person in as many days who's told me that.
You'd love it.
Yeah, we should.
It has the cosmic, the political, and the personal,
All
all
right,
three things.
I'll do it
And
when
then
I'm
watch
done. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'll watch Avatar.
Good, and let me know. And then you gotta watch Legends of Korra.
Yes.
So there's that. So yeah, but they're pretty straightforward, right? It's you
Hmm.
got your kind of your chosen one character, and then they defeat the Dark Lord, or
Hmm.
whatever the Matrix was about. Um,
Hmm. The
and
machines. The
yeah, the
machines.
machines, or Voldemort who just takes over a school. Ooh.
Yeah.
What I think Star Wars, although funny enough, Lord of the Rings doesn't really have a chosen one. I mean, it has like luck and fate and chance, but there's
Hmm.
no like prophecy of like the great hero. If anything, I think it's like I always think the Lord of the Rings though is like anti-chosen one, where it's like actually no, the person who kind of wins the day is this hobbit who hobbits don't really matter, but in the end of the day they save the day compared to these grand
Yeah.
wizards and kings. Um, but what Star Wars has is
Hmm.
something that Game of Thrones also has, and I think Dune, but I don't know enough about Dune to really
Hmm.
make an argument for Dune is you have a chosen one, and then things go south with them really quick. What I like is it's a version of the chosen one where it's like instead of again the Dark Lord or the villain or the evil force, um,
Hmm.
like one-on-one battle. It's like Anakin versus Palpatine. do. It's
Yeah.
Dark Lord going, hey, how about we join forces? Or what if we're pals? I'm not a bad guy. Join me. And
Mhm.
sometimes Dark Lords try that and always loses. But this is one of the few times where it's like this chosen one's like, sure, I want to save my wife. And also,
Right.
I think this is where things get complicated, but in a good way.
Mhm.
Let's face it, Matthew. 9 times out of 10, when you're telling people, "Oh, you're the chosen one. You're going to make the country great again," your ego's going to go up, and you start to make
Mhm.
you're going to start to get more and more corrupt, and
Like the
not
kings of Israel and Judah,
yeah, exactly.
you
Or
know?
the leaders in Germany who also had Messiah complexes and
Yeah.
whatnot. And I think that's kind of cool that Star Wars decided to do that, where it's like
Yeah, well.
Star Wars doesn't go with the more cliche route. I think a lot of stories go. Although
Mhm.
I like Avatar: The Last Airbender because I think that's one of the few times that gets away with it really well.
Mhm.
Of just straightforward. You gotta bow the evil lord that threaten us all. It's actually, no, we're gonna keep telling you you're the chosen one, and you're gonna develop like a really bad ego and make a lot of egotistical choices, and then become evil, and for 30 years, just make people's lives a living heck.
Like your adolescence, we're gonna tell you this.
Yes.
Like you're gonna go be a teenager and you're gonna be reconnect with the love of your life, your crush at
Mhm.
19.
Yeah.
And then at 22, you're gonna be a war hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
George,
the
he knew what he was doing.
and the war here and the warp, makes just messes with Anakin's mind because
Mhm.
war does that to people.
Yep.
There's PTSD going on there.
True.
And he becomes the greatest villain ever.
Mhm.
uh, and that's why I've always liked it. That's why I like the chosen one thing, and I've never been bothered by it because I think it's kind of George saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, wait a minute, guys. When you're always telling someone they're gonna save the day, and all hope kind of rests with them, and they're also like the most powerful person in the world, it's never a good thing,
No.
actually."
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that? It's like with Anakin, kind of like here's a chosen one. I always like to make this joke.
Yeah.
It's the story of Jesus if he became a Roman emperor.
Oh, interesting. I mean, it's. I mean, again, Matthew Stover digs into this, right?
Mhm,
And I think Clone Wars does a little bit too.
mhm,
I mean, Clone Wars goes more into, uh, I mean, especially how abandoned he feels with Ahsoka leaving. But yeah, we see how loved he is and how trusted he is
mhm,
throughout this, and we're meant to love and trust him,
mhm,
and despite knowing what's about to happen.
mhm.
So yeah, I that is fascinating. I mean, again, I hadn't thought too much about that, only because I take it in this weird direction of kind of as an icon of well, Sophie and I go into this in our Victors of Theed episode, like when she came on with this kind of icon of going into the suffering of the galaxy. But yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, yeah, that Matthew Stover in his novelization goes into all the ego and the pressures and yeah, all that. So yeah, that makes sense. I will say, Harry Potter and the Matrix, again, they're straightforward. They are consciously Christian in that sense, right? We
That's true.
know that.
That's true.
Um, Harry Potter, it's simpler. He's younger in a different way than Anakin. He's more innocent.
Right.
Um, so
Avatar is not Christian. Avatar last year was very not Christian.
no,
It's,
and
it's East Asian.
yeah, it's probably why it's more interesting. It's why it's more
It's like Star
almost
Wars.
yeah,
Very-
yeah, and hence why Dave Filoni probably grappled onto it. But yeah, that sounds interesting, and that's probably why it's more. Do I want to say believable? Do I want to say
I like
a
interesting.
more interesting, compelling story? It's a different story than the one that's permeated our culture for the last couple centuries, right? Um,
Although Lord of the Rings
although
is
that's
weird about it because Lord of the Rings is also
yes.
Christian. Although I guess Aragorn's the king who was going to come and say, but he's also kind of not the main character. So
So here's the thing with Lord of the Rings: there isn't a chosen one
right.
in that. and that was an intentional choice by Tolkien, where as opposed to Narnia.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Narnia is the other extreme, right? Narnia is Aslan is Jesus, by the
Yep.
way.
The kids of Adam and Eve.
Yeah, Aslan is Jesus.
Right.
Um, Tolkien was saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write a mythos and a sort of kind of about Christian virtues
Mhm.
of courage and faithfulness
Mhm.
and hope, um, and about the way God orders everything and brings everything together. But it's not going to be a retelling of the Bible story. It's going to be maybe what would that look like in this certain such and such an age of him believing that it's possible for, well, this is the thing. So it was the thing I was reading was this comparison between, there was this contrast between Lord of the Rings and a lot of more contemporary ideas of um, we're the ones to figure it out and make the golden age happen now, whereas for Tolkien it is this decline,
Right.
which again, like the biblical narrative is a narrative of decline before it's finally saved
Mhm.
by this divine intervention.
Right.
um and for Tolkien would say, I think, here's the thing, I think Tolkien would say
Mhm.
that Lord of the Rings does have a chosen one.
Mhm.
It's literally Jesus. It's that this is this prehistoric mythos for our own real world. That's how he conceived of Middle Earth. Whereas, yeah, I mean, all these others, um, that makes, I mean, that makes for a very different. Makes it removes all that focus
Mhm.
of a chosen one away from, um, yeah, away from this kind of cosmic idea, so that Aragorn can be an example of more like what folks thought David was,
Oh
even though
yeah.
David himself turns out to be hella problematic too, intentionally. That's because the Bible doesn't have heroes; it only has humans. Um,
Lord of the Rings does, and Aragorn
yeah,
very much is.
yeah, yeah. So that's Aragorn, but also Frodo,
Oh yeah.
and Sam, and again the virtues of humility and patience and service and sacrifice, and of not caring, not worrying about making a great name for yourself, but doing the small little things that you're meant to do. And so, I mean, that's someone like Qui-Gon,
Mhm.
like all these other Jedi we see. I mean, that's, that was an inspiration, I think, also for High Republic, is to say, all these little things that they're meant to do their part. Some are more significant than others.
Mhm.
What Wreath is doing, it may be more significant than what Cord and Farzala are doing, but still just as essential to the final result. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
that. So that's an interesting point to make here in this chosen one conversation,
Mhm.
is non-chosen one stories, even in Star Wars. Yeah, and even in Christian fantasy.
Yeah. A couple more points I want to make before we wrap up, which I just thought of.
Mm-hmm,
I think as Star Wars kind of moved beyond obviously Lucas's
mm-hmm.
oversight of the story and where the
Yeah.
ultimately what Star Wars is, I think one thing that I think we've noticed, and I think we have noticed, is a little bit more in-universe questioning of the chosen one, and not necessarily. And I don't think necessarily
Yeah.
in order to disprove Anakin isn't the chosen one. I do think that is something. I think they are
Mm-hmm,
sticking with Anakin the chosen one. He was
mm-hmm,
he, but I think as
mm-hmm,
we decide to make things a little more complicated, I think it's kind of, and I think I think you should, because if you want to make Star Wars this galaxy a real place,
mm-hmm.
people questioning, whether or not, if is Anakin the chosen one. We see this in Rebels with twin sons. Maul asked
Mm-hmm.
Obi Wan, is Luke the chosen one? He didn't know it was Luke at the time, but it's like, is the person you're protecting the chosen one? Is he gonna?
Mm-hmm.
Is he avenge us? Will he
Mm-hmm.
avenge us? Which is interesting to see Maul's interpretation
Yeah.
of the chosen one, where it's like, yes, avenge us against the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in Chris Kemshaw's Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, fun fact, um,
Mhm.
the Sith do believe in the Chosen One prophecy. They just think
Right.
it's for them. They think Anakin's the Chosen One for their side. Like, hey, we're gonna get this cool ultra Sith, and he's gonna finally avenge the Sith and bring us to power, and it's gonna be great.
Huh.
Which, funny enough, is an idea from Legends, although it was separate from the Chosen One. It was called the Sithari, which
Right.
is
Yeah, I was right about that.
the ultimate Sith. And in Legends, Palpatine thought he was the Sithari, Plagueis thought he was the Sithari. A lot of Siths think Bane was the Sithari because he started the rule of two. No one
Mhm.
really quite knows who the Sithari was. Um,
Or if there was one, and again, it's a prophecy,
I mean, it's probably
right?
so. Yeah, they weren't sure. Even Plagueis and Palpatine believe in the Chosen One prophecy in the Plagueis novel. When
Mhm.
Plagueis is putting two and two together of Anakin's virgin birth, he's like, "Uh oh,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
oh shoot! I think the Force is trying to get back at us for what we did." Plagueis, we need to get that kid and quick. It's like we gotta get that kid before he undoes us all. It's like, oh, he's like, it's like someone described it like going to a party and re- 6 months later having a kid brought to you, like, oh shoot, what did I do at that party? um
9 months later. 9 months
9
later.
months later,
What's
it's like, uh-oh, what was
yeah.
I doing that night? It's
Yeah.
Palpatine Blake is having that kind of moment of like,
Trying to resurrect Venomous is what you were
yeah,
doing.
doing all sorts of dark whole cis stuff.
Mhm.
Like, oh shoot.
Monkeying around with the fabric of life.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, oh dear.
Yeah.
And that's why Palpatine tried to, get the
Yeah.
kid on his side. Like, hey, if I get the Chosen One on my side, then
That's
I'm in the
interesting.
clear.
Is that in
Um,
the first chapter? I need to
that's
read
not in the
that.
first chapter, but it's definitely in the Phantom Menace portions of
No,
the
I mean
book.
in Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. That
That
part.
might be in the first chapter. I'll have to look it up. I think that might be
Yeah.
when he's talking about Palpatine and the whole Sith stuff. So that
Yeah.
might be in the first chapter.
Mm.
Um, I looked it
Yes.
up myself. It's
The
on the
Beaumont
Wikipedia.
kin knows about dark arts and cloning and Sith masters,
I
Sith magic.
commented on it on our Blue Sky, and Chris Kemshaw got back to me. So
Nice. Yeah.
that was awesome. And I am curious if maybe not creating a bunch of prophecies, but if in some ways, as we
Hmm.
as we make new sagas and we go further back and further forward, if we kind of have chosen ones, maybe not in direct name, but certainly
Hmm.
like you were the hero of this era,
Yeah.
much kind of like Revan with maybe the hero of his era and the villain
Some
of his era of Old Republic back in the day, or
kind of Vader inspired for sure.
if Jason Solo hadn't gone evil, and would have been Jason Solo, would have been the next one, or Ray for her era next. She's coming next.
Yeah.
The new chosen ones, the new eras.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think everyone needs a prophecy saying you're the chosen one. Just sort of more of a in a meta text kind of
Hmm.
way. Um,
I mean, there is so the Lubavitch is a sect of Judaism is kind of off the mainstream, but they're very large and very active and vocal.
right.
And one of their beliefs is that there's a Messiah every generation,
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like
and
that.
and it's hard to point it out. Like the last one, they have this rabbi named Schneerson or
Mhm.
whoever. So yeah, but that's a real world thing. So I
Mhm.
mean that I can see happening in Star Wars a little bit. I mean, again, because this thing it's vague, right?
Right.
It could refer to multiple, you know.
I mean, even the Skywalker saga, every trilogy had at least a hero. Anakin for the prequels, Luke the sequels, and Ray for the. I mean, Luke the
Mm.
original and Ray for the sequels.
So maybe it refers to the Skywalker family.
Why not? They're gonna do it every
Yeah.
family. I hope not. I mean, we don't need bloodlines.
No, but referring to the Skywalker family as a, I don't know, but again, that's the thing. Like 2,000 years later, that's the only thing, right? I mean, again, Christianity is weird because they started to believe it very quickly. This thing, believing this resurrection happened. That helps, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing in Star Wars. It's the kind of thing that would have to happen, be decades, if not centuries, looking back.
Right.
Like when they noticed that oh yeah, Lena So that was pretty great. Literally the robes were literally gold. Must have been a golden age. Now
Mhm.
that took 200 years for them to discern that.
I mean,
So
yeah, you're right. And also, people get all, I mean, in our fandom, get all weird of like, well, how come Anakin brought balance to the Force even though there still was war after Endor?
yeah,
It's like, I thought there's supposed to be eternal peace and happiness. And I mean, my hot take has always been in the Mandoverse, for instance, there's balance to the Force because the Empire's not in charge and everything is not that
yeah,
terrible. And there's still gonna be bad things, but like if you compare that to when the Emperor, the Sith Lord, was had the zenith of his power
yeah.
and ruled the galaxy with an iron fist.
Could destroy a planet with one command.
Exactly, yeah, things have improved. Okay,
Yeah,
even the stuff on Exegol is like
yeah,
little shadow in the distance, but
yeah. That's interesting. The last gasp.
mhm,
That's an interesting way of putting it because it kind of like as you're thinking about it the last half hour or whatever since you said that.
mhm.
Um, it kind of affirms what happens in Return of the Jedi. You know. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
mean that's what I always think. I always think of it as just a little shadow. I mean, think of it this way: Palpatine took power in Renaissance, and he held it for 30 years. Palpatine was in hiding for
20
30
something years.
years,
Mm-hmm.
came back in a couple months,
Mm-hmm.
and then lost it all in like an hour,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we can if we want to count the Rise of the First Order stuff and if you want to count like Force Awakens to Rise of
Yeah.
Skywalker, the whole thing, then he only held power for a year.
Yeah.
That's how long the First Order ruled the whole galaxy. So,
Mm. True.
so there's that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll start to see stuff like that as Star Wars moves beyond just or kind of moves or kind of circles around the Skywalker saga stuff some more. You move
Mm-hmm.
forward, you move backwards. Um, all that stuff. I wanted to check my notes, make sure. I think I almost got everything. Um, oh, that's right. I forgot to mention Deep Space Nine. That's another one. Like the Emissary. That's another.
Yeah.
That's pretty straightforward.
It is eventually, although he's reluctant at first. That's the thing, Cisco.
What I like about Cisco, he's a reluctant messiah.
Kind of why I thought of Anakin having nothing to do, wanting nothing to do with it. Cisco is more reluctant too, but also he's more humble.
Cisco's just a better person.
Yeah,
I think
he's also a real leader.
that's true.
No, Anakin's a general in the Clone Wars, but yeah, Cisco, he's actually meant to be a heroic character. So,
that's true. Um, you know,
or a
um,
mature heroic leader, I should say.
I do. Yeah, and I do wonder. I do like the idea of like every Force sect thinks the chosen one is on their side. I wonder if like even the Night Sisters and the witches think they have the chosen one or not.
Interesting.
I mean, we know the Sith do. Um, so I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I got not much else to say. I mean, I think the chosen one thing is important to Anakin's story and
Yeah.
what people call the original saga of 1 through 6, the Lucas saga, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. It's
Yeah.
certainly if Star Wars to you is just what George Lucas touched and his chunk of the pie, yeah, that's definitely critical. Once you kind of go beyond it, it kind of ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
Dave's touching on it a little bit, maybe with the more stuff in Ahsoka
Yeah.
that's to come, of course. The sequels kind of, unofficially touch it, but they don't mention anything about the chosen one per se or the prophecy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna probably fade in a little bit in and out, depending, of course, on I mean, at what point it's like, Ray's dealing with other stuff
Yeah.
in her new saga. She got other stuff to deal with, new evils to fight. Maybe there's a new chosen one out there she gotta find. I don't know.
Yeah.
She finds another virgin birth somewhere. Who knows? Um, and Dawn of the Jedi might, that might bring it up a little bit, but then again, the Sith
Mm-hmm.
aren't around. So I think the chosen one part it's an interesting aspect of Star Wars,
Yeah.
and I do like seeing it when it gets a little bit more questioned, even in universe. I mean, heck, even Revenge of the Sith starts to question it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna watch Revenge of the Sith, Yoda goes, "A prophecy misread could have been."
Yeah.
So even they're kind of like, is he the chosen
That
one?
that's it. The complications. I mean,
Mhm.
prophecies have to be interpreted. right?
Yeah.
And
So
it's funny. It's weird. Just I know we're getting to the end here, but weird how certain incompetent Qui-Gon is,
mhm.
right?
That's true. He's ride and die with Anakin about it.
I mean, as we're saying, he turns out to be right. It just takes a path, takes a turn
Takes
over
a
the next 50
turn,
years.
destroys the
Yeah,
Jedi Order as an institution. Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I've never had a problem with it, and I've always
mm,
liked the fact Star Wars decided to go with like, hey, let's have a chosen one who wants to defeat a Dark Lord, but instead of going for the straight path, let's have him join the Dark Lord and become a Dark Lord himself for a little bit. That'd
yeah,
be cool.
yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorite things in Star Wars. As I say that a lot, but I mean, the Anakin Vader relationship is always, and all the different layers and aspects to it is my favorite thing in Star Wars. Um, and yeah, so I mean, definitely going back, especially to 2017 when I started podcasting, and this question of the chosen one has very much near and dear to my heart in my, you know, thinking about Star Wars, thinking about the prequel trilogy and as it holds together. So all that to say, I want to see this idea be fleshed out some more. I mean, I do want to see Ahsoka season 2 at least implicitly go into it again, because if you're going to touch Mortis in the way that I think it will, then I think it should. So, um, there's a great question from Tyler. You know, I mean, Qui Gon, yeah, and that's the thing is he is more in tune. He is more this humble servant of the Force. And the great quote I'm thinking about this in terms of life from Master and Apprentice. Having such a sense of the Force that and the light that he follows it not to win some cosmic game, but because it is the light. He's that in tune and that sensitive, and so even though beyond the order and saying even to the destruction of the order, I'd be fascinated to see
Uh,
Qui-Gon and Anakin Force Ghosts come together
I want
and
to.
talk about this. I mean, that would be too much probably on the nose, but sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, no. It actually made me think of one more thing. I'm so sorry, but this one more point came to me,
Sure.
and then we'll wrap it up. I promise.
Yeah.
The victory for all time and Force
Yes.
Ghost, and I've always, and I guess, and sequel trilogy again kind of make. Well, I mean, Anakin does show up at the end for like 5 seconds.
Yoda
He's
in
the
The
voice
Last
of Ray.
Jedi.
He's the voice in Ray's
Yeah.
head. To
But
really
also
help.
Yoda in The Last Jedi showing up. Right? The guy who
Yeah,
says victory for all time.
and I do wonder if Anakin being quote unquote the chosen one means that regardless of what Jedi it is, and funny enough, the Lego specials kind of do this with Finn. Funny
Right.
enough, of Anakin Force Ghost showing up to Finn to help him out is if obviously, the Force isn't the person, but let's pretend for a second the Force is a person. Force is like Anakin's boss. It's like, okay, 100 years later, Anakin, the Force is kind of getting out of whack. We need to be a Force ghost for this Jedi who's having trouble. Like they're kind of in tune.
Yeah.
Maybe give him a good pep talk. Help this against the latest Dark Lord or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like Anakin, as the chosen one, will always kind of now help out
That's
future
interesting.
Jedi, be they not even related to Ray or anything, Greg. Just like random Force user who
Yeah.
finds a book about Jediism, and then because that's always been my thing about the
Yeah.
victory for all time over the Sith is where the Sith. Again, I hate bringing up Harry Potter. I'm so sorry. They get stuck in Horcruxes, basically, where it's like their spirits can only be in like a box, and
Yeah.
if you toss that box in the temple, they're stuck there forever.
Mhm.
Or in evil, decaying clones like Palpatine, who can barely do anything and need
Yeah.
proxies.
Or they're gone forever.
Or they're gone forever. Yoda,
Yeah.
Anakin, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, whoever else has mastered Force ghostiness over the many years can pop up to some random girl, boy, non-binary
Mhm.
Jedi, and who are getting more in tune with the Force and like wisdom I can bestow on you. Yes, this
Mhm.
is maybe what you could do. Help you.
Yes.
Never alone you are.
Thanks, Tyler.
And the
Appreciate it.
Jedi are never dead. The Jedi live forever.
Yes.
And I wonder if
Yeah.
Anakin will, as chosen one, can always play that part.
Yeah. Again, thanks, Tyler. Really appreciate it, and all your input and all the work you do on the Dark Horse comics.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, it would require
You do have
that.
his Ahsoka. Anakin is at least.
Yeah, so it would require. I mean, that's the thing is, if that Jedi in question
Mhm.
was reading about Anakin and knows about Anakin and that's meaningful, he's meaningful to that person.
Mhm.
Because it can't just be anybody, right?
I
So
don't know. I don't think there are rules for Force Ghosts, so I think it's very vague.
so no, but if that Force Ghost wants to have an impact on that person,
That's true.
there's got to be some context. But also, again, in real universe, the storyteller, it has to be who does that person represent for this character,
That's true.
right? Like Obi-Wan, like on Hoth, Obi-Wan represents something specific to Luke, right?
Right.
On Octo, Yoda represents something specific to Luke.
Mhm.
Qui-Gon on Dagobah, is it? Yeah, Qui-Gon represents something specific to Yoda.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's and Anakin to Ahsoka, right? So
That's true.
yeah,
But I think it'd be kind of cool if, like, maybe I don't know. I'm making things up, but like,
yep,
if they don't have to necessarily read about Anakin, but maybe. Well, I mean, that's what I would do, and then I'll shut up. Is
yeah,
I would maybe like if you wanted to be Anakin, but don't know how to then like read about it. Maybe like they have a certain personality that like Anakin would like. It's sort of like you need like the right teacher for a certain pupil. Maybe like this Jedi who's learning about the Force
yeah,
and stuff had a very certain personality where it's like Yoda wouldn't work, Obi-Wan wouldn't work, but Anakin because he's like again like Ahsoka, he's the unorthodox
yeah,
Jedi who's not afraid to kind of get like that's what I love about Ahsoka. He's still not afraid to kind of give Ahsoka a little bit of a kick in the pants,
yeah.
kind of be a little bit of a jerk. But he's our jerk.
He's our
Um,
jerk.
he's our jerk, right? Where he's like
Yeah,
he's not patient and nice, but he kind
yeah,
of but he's like it's the kind of jerkiness where like yeah, get kind of kick him in the pants and. Like yeah, I needed that kick in the pants, and I think
mhm,
maybe that the Jedi you're following had that personality. Where like, just need a good kick in the pants.
yeah. I mean, by the Ahsoka episode, he's fully aware and in control of what he's doing. Right. It's not like when he's actually Vader and having succumbed to fear and suffering. He's actually genuinely trying to, as Anakin,
Hmm.
get Ahsoka over her past.
Right.
And so, yeah, really,
Okay, and that's it. That was my final point. Force
that's our
Ghost.
final one. Yeah, there you go. It's a good place to wrap things up. I will say, I do want to see more. So I want to see Ahsoka season 2, at least implicitly
Mhm.
start with this, go in this direction. I want to see them grapple with it. I want to see storytellers grapple with this at all because it's still, I think, going to be the importance of Anakin. Like I said, the importance of Anakin, even in stories that are focused on Ahsoka and Luke and whoever else,
Mhm.
um, is still a relevant question. Hence, Adam Christopher getting a novel all
Yes.
about it, right? Well, maybe not all about it, but it's going to be there too. Of course, Charles Soule writing the greatest comic of all time. So there we go. I'm all full of the superlatives tonight. Thanks everyone for joining us. Good place to wrap things up. Let us know what you thought of our conversation tonight, what you thought of all the things we talked about. Looking forward to Andor. What are you looking forward to? Star Wars Celebration, Pacific Coast Party. It's the East Coast though. Looking forward to Master of Evil.
Bye, Tyler. Bye, Daisy.
Yes, yeah. See you guys. But yeah, what are you guys looking forward to? Yeah, with Master of Evil. Are you going to give that one a read or listen? Looking forward to some footnotes. Excited for Revenge of the Sith footnotes, and of course, the Chosen One. If you are celebrating Easter, Holy Week and Easter in church or with family or both, have a wonderful week. Have a very holy week. And if you're taking time, relaxing, chilling, enjoying the live streams, enjoying the day off. Hopefully, get a day off on Friday and Monday. I know I do as well. Enjoy that as well. And yeah, if you're doing all the above, have a good one too. I will try and do all the above. We'll see. Next week, speaking of next week, I will be off, taking Easter Monday off. I'll be up with family, etc. But yeah, hopefully getting Red back for Legends Look Back. For I forgot to do the plugs. I'll get those in a second. I'll mention again. I'll do this. I'll do this now. I'm instituting an Audible new format. Do the next week, then the plugs, then the next week, just like Tractory. Next week, Joel and hopefully Red Leader are coming back to do Legends look back on the X-Wing Phantom Affair comic book arc. Good old Legends look back there. Anyways, Joel, that was great conversation. Always a timely topic. Something maybe we can revisit every year or so around this time, maybe. And hopefully, as new stories come out that maybe touch on it. Thanks again for leading this discussion. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at JID20234 on Blue Sky, JID20234 on Blue Sky, and of course, you can follow us at the Ion Canon Pod on Blue Sky. Oops, sorry about the motorcycle. And of course, on the Star Wars Underworld Discord. Follow us there, chat with us there. We all have a good time.
There we go. Yes, link in the description below. Yeah, that's at Ion Canon Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Ion Canon on Blue Sky. You can follow my personals, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. MNEUG1138, Instagram beaches.foodie. I gotta upload that. I have some photos I should pop onto there. Bless your timeline with some fried chicken. Why not? On Twitter, still in the Bird app, NEUG485. Yes, again, Blue Sky Ion Canon at Ion Canon Pod. This Wednesday, Joel, let us know what we're doing on Wednesday.
We are doing Jedi Knights number 2 and Legacy of Vader number 3. Very exciting. Let's go.
There we go. Tractor Beam Comics reviews. Right back at you with the Iron Cannon crew, but on the Tractor Beam on a different podcast. Tractor Beam Comics reviews. Looking forward to that one. And then again, next week. Also, one thing to say, I forgot. Completely forgetting. Also, check out the flagship podcast, Star Wars Underworld, because they will, for all the late breaking Star Wars Celebration news, check out at the SWU. For all of that, definitely Dom is on the ground, Hannah's on the ground, we'll be on the ground and Chris is on the ground in Japan, giving you the latest deets. And of course, I'm sure the flagship is going to talk about that and talk about Andor and everything this week and next week. Last week, guess who was on the flagship podcast? Joel, you want to just plug this last week's flagship?
Oh, yes, that's right. Last week, I was on the podcast along with our good friend Jeff of Hype Function, and we took over the show, basically. We want to know what that's all about. Watch the first, 5-10 minutes of the podcast. Yes. It was hilarious. We had a good time with Ben, and we talked all sorts of things. We talked about the book. We talked about Master of Evil. We talked about what we thought are the strongest seasons of live-action Star Wars television, pre-Andor Season 2, of course. And much, much more.
There we go. So, yeah, check that out. The Ben Out the Star Wars Guy song was played. I can attest. So there we go. Check that out. And then, of course, check out the Iron Canon podcast next Monday. I won't be there, but Red and Joel will be there for Legends Look Back. Same bat time, same Convor time, same Convor channel. We're hearing on the Underworld Podcast Network YouTube channel Monday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Joel, until next time, let's blow this thing and head home.